We have ourselves a lovely evening. It's a full moon, but unfortunately it's covered up with some clouds right now. But what I have here is a barrel of freezing water. It's about 20 degrees outside, and I am butt-ass naked. Can you guess what's gonna happen next? Yep, I'm getting in there for 2 minutes. So, with this barrel, I can get just up to my belly button here if I kind of crouch in it. So I can't do a full submerge, but I can still get my entire lower body in there. You'll just have to take my word for it that I'm naked. So I promise there's a point to this video. I will be discussing that more when I get out and get a little bit warmed up. I'll talk to you about why my goofy butt is doing this, but I'm gonna be in here for 2 minutes. Nice little midwinter ice bucket challenge here. It's too bad that that moon is covered up right now because it was really pretty. Whew, that is 1 minute down. Yeah, it's about 20 degrees right now. It's pretty chilly. I haven't done any of the full submerges yet. I bet that's brutal. Even doing it in the bucket with half my body submerged is always, it's uncomfortable. We'll put it that way. We're getting there. 20 more seconds. Gotta get 1 or 2 more of these in before winter's over here. I've only done, I think, 2 others so far this year. So, you know what? I'm feeling frisky. We're gonna hit 2.5 today. Why not? Oh, I was gonna show you that car driving by. Oh, almost there. Oh, okay, that's about 2.5. Out we go. Okay, we're back inside. We're back to normal temperature. So now at this point, I just want to talk really quick about why my crazy little butt decided to jump in a barrel of freezing temperature water in Colorado in the middle of winter. So the main reason that I like to do that is just to challenge myself. And of course, this is just one example of some things that I like to do to challenge myself, but I think it kind of plays into a larger mentality, and the way that I'm going to tie that into my business, in my business model, is kind of, again, that idea of an evolved human, of a person who is self-sustaining and is willing to challenge themselves, is interested in becoming the kind of almost the best version of themselves, right? So I think that in order for us to be able to get there, we need to do things that are out of our comfort zone and learn how to kind of navigate through life in a way that's very intentional and and always kind of seeking growth and development, right? Instead of just kind of drifting through life like a leaf blowing in the wind, right? So that's just one of the things that I like to do. That's, I think, the third one I've done this winter. I'll probably do a couple more before it gets warm again here. I really should be doing them all the time, but you know, it's kind of funny because it's really not that bad. But there's always that aversion, right? Like even tonight, you know, I made up my mind that I was going to do it, but there's kind of still that you almost want to like stall, right? Like you want to find excuses to go do other stuff. And even though you know that you're not going to let yourself wimp out, but there's kind of that tendency for us to want to, again, kind of stay in that comfort bubble and stick with things that we're familiar with and that are easy, right? And I think that that's something that we really need to grow out of if we want to become, you know, very developed human beings that are reaching our potential. So I highly recommend that folks try stuff like that. As always, you know, make sure you're doing it in a safe environment and make sure that you're not, you know, pushing yourself so far that it becomes counterproductive or even dangerous. That's always something to be thinking about. But stuff like that, I think it's good to push yourself a little bit with. You know, another good example while we're on the topic of cold weather, last weekend we had a potluck in town, and I ended up catching up with a friend who was at this potluck who I hadn't seen in a little bit, so it was nice to catch up, touch base with him. Well, the potluck ended up ending very early because there's a bunch of older folks there, and everyone pretty much called it at 7 p.m. It was supposed to go till 9, so him and I just ended up talking outside and BSing ended up being about an hour. And I was just wearing a long sleeve shirt, and we were literally talking outside for about an hour, and it was, again, about the same temperature. It was about 20 degrees, so you can imagine that got pretty chilly. But it's kind of one of those things where part of it was I was engaged in conversation with him as just, he's an awesome guy, super interesting person to talk to, so that kind of takes your mind off the cold anyway, right? But it's kind of one of those things where I could have very easily, you know, called it early or jumped in my truck and, you know, warmed the heater up and either just left him or been like, hey man, let's go talk in the truck or whatever it is. I could have very easily done that, but it's just kind of one of those things where, you know, I think a lot of people would have called it before I did, but it's kind of one of those things where I'm just, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm some crazy badass who was always doing the, you know, most gnarly stuff, because I'm really not, but I'm not one of those people who is always seeking comfort and always needs to, you know, if I'm suffering a little bit, my cat's going nuts right now. If I'm suffering a little bit, or I'm, you know, I'm cold or I'm really hot or whatever it is, I typically just kind of prefer to deal with it to the extent that's reasonable. And I think that that's actually a good thing. I don't think that it's a good thing for us to always be seeking those perfect circumstances, because life just simply doesn't work that way. And if you really think about it, there's always going to be, you know, situations and things that are out of our control. And especially if things keep going the way that they do, I really think that we're gonna find that less and less we are able to kind of rely on the system and rely on whatever it is, our utilities or whatever they are, things always working. It's just simply not possible. And what I'm getting at with all of this is, if you're placed in circumstances where you don't have that availability to, you know, perfect 70-degree temperatures and all that good stuff. Let's just say maybe you get in a car wreck in the middle of nowhere, and it's wintertime and it's really cold out, and you don't have help for a couple hours, and maybe you don't even have blankets or jackets or anything in your car. Maybe all you have is a little small sweatshirt or something like that. Of course, this is all just hypothetical, but it happens all the time. If you had already been previously challenging yourself with some of this type of stuff and allowing yourself to be cold sometimes and allowing yourself to get uncomfortable, then when that circumstance comes, instead of panicking and making things worse, or potentially just because you're not used to that, potentially having further issues where maybe your body takes that a little bit harder than if you had already been kind of training for that stuff, even just for fun, then you're going to, again, just be able to handle that situation a lot better. So I really think that there's some value in that. If you think about some of the stuff that, the military does with their training, or, pro athletes or whatever it is, pro athletes do these ice bucket challenge type things all the time. There's an element of mental toughness to all of that stuff. And these people who are kind of at the upper echelon of human progress, especially in a physical realm when it comes to, physical conditioning and shape. These people that are all the way up at the top, they don't get there by babying themselves and by allowing themselves to, take it easy, basically, right? They're just pushing the limits so hard, and that's what happens when you do that, is you just become so amazingly good at your craft, and you become mentally tough. And I really do think there's a lot of value for that, and I think that there's a lot of value for just the everyday person. I don't think we all need to be top world gold medal athletes. That's not obviously necessary, but I really do think there's some value in having the average person be more mentally tough. And without this being an attack on people, I will be the first to admit that I think a lot of people in our society nowadays are not really very mentally tough. I'm sorry to say that, but it's the truth. And I think there's a reason for that. I think that it's just because we've grown so comfortable in society and we've just gotten so good at surviving that we haven't really needed to worry about being able to, everything that comes along with needing to survive. Typically in the wild, you think about, you need to be able to run fast, you need to be able to do all sorts of stuff like that. And, typically, of course, I'm talking centuries ago or whatever, there's not always a guarantee of shelter. You don't get to have an air-conditioned, heated home that you can set thermostat on, right? You don't always get to be comfortable. It's kind of what you get is what nature throws at you. So not necessarily saying that that's what we need to move towards in the future, but I think that our ancestors and even people 100 whatever years ago, I think were a lot tougher than we are now. And I do think that there's something to be said for that. I don't think that we're in a very good place right now when it comes to that. And I think moving forward, as we continue to evolve, even if we still are on the trajectory now that we are of having a lot, how do I word this, kind of a higher guarantee of survival for the average person, right? A high lifespan. There's not really a lot of danger because, you don't, as you're walking down the street, for the most part, you don't need to worry about some saber-toothed tiger jumping at you to rip your face off, right? So as long as that continues, I think that that's a good thing. It's nice that we don't have to be terrified to death for just basic survival all the time. But I think that, again, moving forward and continuing to evolve, I think what a better trajectory would be for us as a species is for us as human beings to challenge each other in a loving way, in a playful way almost, for us to be better and to continue to challenge ourselves and doing things like I just did tonight. But instead of it being based off survival, it's more just challenging each other, maybe in a competition where you have 2 or 3 friends and you guys are doing that and see who can go the longest or something like that, and I think that there's going to be a lot of benefit to that type of stuff. And even challenging strangers. And when you go to, a camping trip with a couple friends, and maybe you go up to a high lake in high altitude or something like that. That's just an example. And the lake's, again, it's freezing temperature water, you know, and maybe it's nice outside. It's like 60 degrees, right, in the summertime, but the lake's freezing. Jump in there dunk yourself for 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Just do that kind of like spontaneous jump out of your comfort bubble. That thing where you know, like you want to do it, but you're kind of like nervous to do it and blah, blah, blah. Just try it. I mean, again, you know, as long as it's all safe circumstances, I mean, that's the type of stuff that I think we need to be doing more. I really think that that's good for us, and it's good for our souls, and it keeps life exciting, right? I mean, that's another thing that I've really noticed is that the more that you kind of seek that comfort and you kind of get into that routine and everything's just, you go to work and then you do whatever, maybe after work, go to dinner, come home, go to sleep, and you never really do anything that exciting or especially challenging though, then I've just noticed that life just becomes so empty. It's so boring when you're not challenging yourself. I mean, one of the things that I look forward to the most all year is going elk hunting with, you know, one or two of my very closest friends here in Colorado, and that involves me hiking up at 12,000 feet, backpacking, staying the night up in the mountains when it's cold in the middle of October, and doing my best to track down these incredible animals and killing one, and then processing it, quartering it out, and then hauling out, you know, over 100 pounds on my back out of the mountains, which is never easy. That is never an easy trip, and I don't care if you are someone who's spent 20 years backpacking or whatever it is. I mean, that elk hunting trip is always hard. It's hard, but it's so awesome, and that's what makes it so amazing. Is it's such an epic challenge, and when you do it with one or two friends, especially, it just creates such an amazing bonding experience that, I mean, there's nothing that can replace that. So. Get out there, do some cool stuff, challenge yourself, go on some awesome adventures, and I think that's really how we can grow together and just form those deep relationships with each other. I mean, I really think that's what life's all about. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys soon. Sorry it's been a little bit since I've made a video. Just been kind of busy with some work stuff, some transition. I moved locations at work here in Colorado and Montrose. So I'm set up in a new shop here right now, so I've been a little bit busy with that and just been kind of averting from making the videos for a little bit here, but especially as it gets nicer here, I'm definitely gonna be making some more content. So thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you guys hopefully not for too long. So.